It's not what you don't know that gets you in trouble. It's what you think you know for sure that just ain't so.
Yeah, that's powerful.
It really is. And it changes my life. And every time I think about it.
Life is all about relationships. Lovers, family, body, or money. How satisfied you are can be completely explained by how you relate to things around you. This is Sophie Jaffe, and together with my husband, Dr. Adi Jaffe, we are here to explore and teach you how to maximize your relationships and achieve a happier life. Let's get ignited.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to this episode of the Ignited Relationships podcast. My name is Adi Jaffe.
And I'm Sophie Jaffe.
And we're on adventure, and today we're going to take you through like a lifestyle adventure, right? Following your little intuition, that little voice inside that tells you what you probably should do, but you don't really know if you trust it or not. We're going to talk to Jennifer Pastiloff, who's a good friend of ours, and man, did she follow that little voice. And so I want to share our review of the week. Dora Leah VM. I don't know what the VM stands for. Truth Seekers is the title of it. And what she said was, love your podcasts every week because you bring in guests from all realms of life. Every journey your guests are on are unique, and I always find myself relating to them and learning so much. I know, I do too. If I can say a couple of words to describe Sophie and Adi, is just listening to their podcast is like going on a spiritual seminar every week that transforms your life. Thank you.
Oh, I love that.
And he said, thank you for taking the time out of your busy day jobs and hosting podcasts that improve the lives of thousands. And then all these emojis. And she said, grateful. And thank you so much for that. That just made my my hour. I love that. We try to bring people in from all walks of life. Man, are you in for a treat today, Dora, with Jennifer? Because, we talk about so many different aspects, like the pain, the shadow, the growth, etc. And I think, Sophie, you have a quote for us related to that from my favorite author.
Yes, your favorite author, and just one of my favorite quotes of all time. He says...
Kurt Vonnegut.
Oh, yeah, I didn't say that. I want to stand as close to the edge as I can without going over. Out on the edge, you see all kinds of things you can't see from the center.
I love that so much. We were in Israel when you said to me, we were riding birds, and you're like, you're such a risk taker.
Yeah.
And I think I've definitely tried to live my life on the edge as much as possible. But really, literally in that description, I love Kurt Vonnegut so much. Like, if you've never read Kurt Vonnegut, I'm even giving you permission right now to just pause this podcast and go read like Timequake or any one of his amazing books.
Yeah, pause this and then go read a 400-page novel and then come back to us.
He has short story books.
Okay, so just like a 200-pager and then just click back on.
And then just come back. Kurt Vonnegut is literally my favorite author of all times. And that quote, what I love about that quote is when you get close to the edge, when you push the edges of your envelope, the growth edges, like we've talked about so many times before, you see the world differently. And so we were on birds, and you were saying to me, you said literally something along the lines like, the trip that I would have taken on the bird between the two places that we were just at, where were we? Did we go something to eat or something? Oh, yoga. I think we
went to yoga, but we took bikes a few times. I took a bike and he took a bird. And each time, like, you can just tell it's his natural instincts of how he's going to navigate. What is he going to take the sidewalk for that little bit, that scary bit? Or is he going to go right into traffic up the hill with a bus behind us? I don't know. Like, what's he going to do? I would take the sidewalk. That's just what I would do as a mother of three. And just given my makeup, mother or not, I'm just a very different person. I take risks in terms of my relationships, in terms of telling the truth, in terms of being vulnerable. I take risks in my relationships in lots of ways and how to expand in my spiritual realm. In terms of my physical realm, not so much. Not a risk taker.
So I don't know if you remember this, but as you were telling me this on the bike, I was like, oh, that's so funny you said that, because I didn't feel like that was risky at all.
Right.
And so what's interesting about it is, even from the Vonnegut quote, everybody's edge is different.
Right, of course.
And I think that's important to keep in mind. Take yourself to your edge.
Keep expanding.
Don't take yourself past your edge. Your edge might expand, and then you would have somewhere else to go. But a lot of us are not necessarily ready to jump off the cliff. If you're one of those squirrel suit people, then by all means, jump off the cliff, and good luck to you. But, for me, it is this game of taking myself up to the edge where I feel a little bit uncomfortable, a little bit of the anxiety, a little bit of the excitement, and then pausing there and enjoying that experience. And I do think that leads so well. I mean, if people follow our life, and I mean by that, like the trajectory, the timeline of you and I, Sophie, it looks a little insane.
Right.
Like just the things we've done. I don't know how many jobs you've had at this point and places you've worked at. Obviously the ups and downs of our own relationship and everything we've gone through there. But me, like I started out pretty traditional on the path, like the academic path. And then it's been like a free for all for the last 3 or 4 years, 5 years even. And there's joy, there's risk, there's anxiety in that. And Jennifer, I think, is such an amazing manifestation of that, which is good and a good fit because of her manifestation yoga and everything like that. But I love listening to her story of how unexpected her turns are and how much struggle and excitement and enjoyment there are in all the different pieces.
Yeah, she is a light and an inspiration for so many. And I love how she parallels the way that we are vulnerable in our relationship. She is vulnerable in her struggles, her personal struggles, anxiety, depression, hearing loss, her parenting. She started a really cool Instagram. It's all about just like raw parenting and the shit show that it can be. And, there's just an art to that. Like she even said, like, I could be better at being more vulnerable publicly about my relationship with my partner. And like, we all can be better in different ways, right? Like I'm not constantly sharing the struggles of my parenting because it's just not at the forefront of where my power is. Like, I think that what I have to share with this planet is...
Are you talking about you individually right now or
me?
Jennifer? Yeah.
I'm saying for me, I'm saying in relation to Jennifer. So for my own story, I feel like sharing our relationship struggles and then like food struggles that I've had throughout the years, even though I'm not even in the trauma or the suffering of either of those things, I have completely healed, thank the fucking Lord, from everything with my food stuff, all my weird body dysmorphic, all my eating disorder stuff, like all the control, all of that is gone now after a decade of really working hard. And then same with you and I with our relationship struggles. It's all done. I'm not in it anymore. It's like, there's not even a scab, much less like a wound. There's nothing. There's not even a scar. It's not even there. And I still talk about it all the time in a very vulnerable, open way because I know that that's where I can be of service to other people.
I love the times where you do share about the kids and the struggles. I mean, I know it's not as much.
It's just not that it comes much more naturally to me. And I feel like the food stuff, I really struggled. I haven't really struggled a lot with the kid stuff like I did in our relationship.
Got it.
So I feel like where Jen really highlights and where she really shares those struggles in parenting, like she became a mom, she'll share, like she became a mom in her 40s.
Yeah.
She wasn't expecting to get pregnant. She didn't even know if she wanted to be a mom until 5 minutes before she was pregnant. Like I knew I was born to be a mother. And so it's just different, and I think it's beautiful the way that she shares parallel to the way that we share. I think it's really beautiful in the way she shares. And I'm so excited for you guys to listen to her story and get her book immediately. And she's been working on it for so long. And it's just such, she's an amazing writer. It's just, it's a joy to witness and to follow along.
Yeah. And I think for me, the theme is July here is adventure. And we're closing out this theme. And one of the things that I think is powerful for everybody to understand is, yes, adventure is going on trips to Israel, to Europe, to Africa, to climb the Himalayas, whatever. That's adventure for sure. But a lot of the adventures happens between your own 2 ears, right? A lot of the adventure is about allowing life to develop. We get handed these scripts of what happiness is supposed to look like. And, dad and mom tell you and what you see in movies and what your friends talk about is like, well, you go to college and then you get a degree and you go into finance and you get an account and you grow it and you find a wife and you have kids and you get a house. And the story sounds almost like those fairy tales that we get told as kids by Disney and all these other companies, or authors, right? But it's like everybody took off the edges. They sanded off all the sharp edges and they cleaned up the timeline and they made it really nice so that everything just happens one after the other. And they made it seem like you just seamlessly integrate from one to the other. Like, well, you go to college and then you go get a job. Well, what the fuck does that actually feel like? And then for most of us, I think most people who go through that journey at some point realize that at least parts of the story don't fit. And if they do fit, they take longer, or they're messier, or they take trial and error. And one way to look at that is with pain. One way to look at that is, God damn it, I'm behind. My mom and my dad told me by 25, I'm supposed to have my career job where I'll be for 35, 40 years. And in the end, I'll get my gold watch and my retirement. And another version of looking at it is like, oh, this is life. Like, this is the journey. The whole thing we're going through right now, this is it. At the end, nobody gives a fuck what your timeline was. Nobody says, well, you know, he lived an okay life, but he didn't start his career job until 32 when he was meant to start at 25.
Yeah.
Fail. That's not how it goes. It's the process you experience. And so listen to the story here and connect to, in what ways are you blocking yourself from opportunity and growth and things that can actually make you really happy and satisfied and lead to an endpoint that you enjoy, even if they don't fit the overall structure.
And before we segue, I just want to share one more quote that reminds me of Jen right away, because she says it almost always at the end of her workshops or yoga classes. It's by Mary Oliver. Tell me, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life?
Love it. Well, ponder that while we take a little break here, and then check out this amazing interview.
Bye. This episode of the Ignited podcast is brought to you by Philosophy Superfoods. The Philosophy offers cleanses and other nutritional products that are unlike any of the other supplements and detoxification programs on the market. Why? Because they actually nourish the body with whole, live, nutrient-rich foods instead of depriving you and leaving you hungry. Have you ever tried a cleanse only to find out that you can't make it through a whole day because you're starving? Ever try a superfood shake that made you nauseous because it was so disgusting you'd rather not eat? The Philosophy fix all that with a simple set of offerings that load up your body with nutrients while actually tasting good. Makes sense, right? Each of the Philosophy superfood and protein blends is vegan, raw, gluten-free, and has absolutely no filler ingredients. With over 15,000 satisfied customers, including some of the world's biggest celebrities like George Clooney, Gerard Butler, Lea Michele, and over 10 years of experience, this is the best stuff you can get. To buy some or find out more info, go to our website, thephilosophy.com.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the conversation. Peace.
Nope.
Wait, it's called a conversation piece?
No, just ignore him.
What?
Just let him talk.
I like to be a little less formal, and then Sophie likes to make fun of me for that.
Got it.
Yeah, we call this a conversation because we used to call it interviews, and then people got pissed that we all just talk, because we don't really interview in the classic sense where we ask a question and then we sit back.
Yeah.
And especially with you, Jen. How long have you known Jen? Soph?
37 years.
No.
I know.
Feels like it.
Since before Sophie was born.
Since before Instagram.
For Sophie. Oh yeah.
35.
I thought you were confusing.
No, Sophie's, since Sophie was -2.
Yep.
No, Jen,
10 years?
Easily.
I feel like I've known you close to as long as I've known Sophie, and we've known each other for 15 years. Sophie and I have been dating for 15 years, but we've been married for 10, so that would make sense.
Yeah, longer than 10.
No, longer.
Yeah.
And you guys met in the yoga world, obvi. And you know, this month's theme is on really talking about adventure and maybe like unexpected circumstances, talking about what life throws at you more than kind of the plan, right? Sometimes we'll talk about the intersection of relationship and love, or nutrition and wellness, or things like that. But this month is all about the unexpected. And even before we started this, you were talking about how that happened a lot in your life.
Yep.
You talked about Charlie in particular as kind of how you had a kid later than you expected, or maybe even after you expected not to ever have a kid.
Oh, yeah, I did not think I was going to have a child, and I had an ectopic pregnancy. But
can you explain what that means to everybody who doesn't know it?
Yeah, ectopic pregnancy is when the pregnancy is stuck in your tube, in your fallopian tube, and it's not viable. It's complicated to talk about. Easier now because I have a child, but I didn't really want to be pregnant, and I started listening to people telling me that I would regret it, and I don't know, I went into panic mode. And so I thought, if Robert and I, my husband, we won't not try. Or no, maybe this was the one time I said, all my friends said, it takes so long to get pregnant. It'll take a year. And so one time, and I got pregnant, and I didn't want to be. And so it was a topic, and I was relieved in a weird way. So this is why I say it's hard to talk. It's easier now. Sure. Now that I have a kid, that was a really hard thing. And I thought this, clarity would come to me right after that. Like, I want a kid more than anything, and never did. And I turned 40, and I did change my mind but it didn't happen until I got pregnant with Charlie. I changed my mind about wanting to be a mom. And one of the big excuses I have of why I wouldn't is because I finally, found success, and I was traveling so much, and how would I pull off what I do? How would I possibly do what I do and have a kid? And so when I got pregnant, people would look at my schedule and my life and go, how are you going to keep doing what you're doing?
And just to be clear, because for the people who don't know, and we'll have links to a lot of the stuff you do, but you would do international retreats. Yeah. You would teach yoga all over the country and all over the world.
But yes, not so much yoga as more of these workshops about embracing our humanity. And sometimes there's a bit of yoga in it, but it's not yoga. And I travel. That's the only way I make my living is by going and leading a workshop somewhere. So like my physical body, getting on a plane or driving somewhere. And so when I got pregnant, I really had to embrace the unknown of like, how am I going to make this work? But I just looked fear in the face and I said, watch me. And all the naysayers, watch me. And that's what I've been doing since. This watch me adventure of I have no idea how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to do it.
And you're doing it.
And I'm doing it. And most people don't know what they're doing. So, hey.
I mean, we write it as we go. That's for damn sure.
I think most people do. I think most people.
And I think the truth is, and I say this in the book too, is we all know more than we think we do. And so like for me, that was a big bullshit story all the time. Like, I don't know what I'm doing, or I don't know. And the truth is I do. I'm not talking about like neuroscience or surgery or anything like that.
You can feel it. You feel when you're on the right path. You feel like, okay, I'm on alignment. I am in alignment with the journey right now, the path right now. And you feel when you're off that path or alignment.
Yep.
So you mentioned them, and I want to talk about it a little bit because I want to get back to what that career was. But even up until the moment where you built your career at 35, it was not an easy road for you. Like there are so many pieces along the way to even get there, because I remember one of the first workshops that we took with you on like La Brea at some yoga studio.
Oh, I forgot you had come.
Like
I know Sophie's come a bunch, but I totally forgot. Yeah, no, I was waiting tables for a really long time. It was a summer job that turned into almost 14 years. And
tip your waiter.
What?
I said tip your waiter.
Tip your waiter really well. Yeah. Be kind. Says a lot about you. You know how you treat service folks. And so I was waiting tables, and I was severely depressed and really felt like a walking dead person. And I was doing a lot of yoga. And then I went on antidepressants, and that was, everyone had thought or suggested to me to become a yoga teacher, which just not sound appealing to me. And I went on meds, and about 2 weeks later, I thought maybe I will. And it was simply because I saw it as a way of a possible escape route to get out of the restaurant rut.
Where were you a waiter?
It was called the Newsroom Cafe. It was on Robertson. It was around the corner from where we are right now.
It's right here.
Yep.
Yeah. So driving here, I had this, like, every time I get off at Robertson, I go up Robertson. I mean, I worked there for almost 14 years. Wow. So I have this weird, visceral body. Like, oh my God.
Totally.
And then I go, yeehaw! I'm not going to work. I don't have to have my apron.
And the newsroom's not even there anymore. So
it's not even there, which depresses me because the food was so good. So I started doing yoga. I started becoming a teacher after I did the training, and pretty quickly I found success just in terms of of jobs. I was teaching hours and tons of classes a week, as compared to now I teach 2 hours a week.
Oh, wow.
2. And I got a free membership at Equinox for it. But no, it wasn't an easy road. Although in some ways it feels like, you know how once you're in the midst of your life, it feels like I've always been here.
Yeah.
But I haven't, and it wasn't.
It's weird, right? Because you always see your life from your perspective. So as you age, as you get wiser, as you grow, as you learn from experiences, you still feel like you're looking at the world the exact same way.
Totally.
But if somebody would have rewound 15 years ago, I know I was just a punk 15, 20 years ago. I knew almost nothing. But if you would have talked to me 15, 20 years ago, I was sure I was wise.
For sure.
Yeah.
I really was wise 20 years ago.
I'm sure.
Yeah, and I wish I could rewind and go back to that person when I was waiting tables and how worthless I thought I was, and remind myself that my job wasn't necessarily equivalent to my self-worth. And
so big.
Yeah. So in a lot of ways I was the same. I certainly like myself better now, by far, than I did back then, and I think that's the biggest difference. But
what made you feel worthless back then?
I think really old programming from being a child. When I was 8, my father died, and right before he died, I said, "I hate you." We're really, really close, and that was the last thing I ever said to him. And so I decided that I was a rotten, terrible, bad person. So I had that on repeat all the time, and I never dealt with that grief. And then, I left NYU with a year left and became a waitress, and years kept passing, and I wasn't doing anything, actively pursuing any of the things I said I wanted to do, writing or acting. And then particularly being in Los Angeles, it's easy. It's really easy. If you have the least bit of insecurity or depression or wherever it is, it can really grow in a place where you're around all these people who sort of treat you like you're not as important.
Yeah. Yeah, LA, people talk about the vanity of LA a lot, which I guess is also an element of it. There's no way to reject that fact, right? There are people here have a layer of vanity that I think in a lot of other cities doesn't exist in the same way.
For sure.
But also the most beautiful, most talented, best writers, dancers, models, actors come here and end up waiting tables.
Totally. And the difference is that, I want to be really clear that for me, waiting tables is a noble profession. It's just that I wasn't creating anything and I wanted to be. And so I felt like I was dead inside, and I was lying about it. So when people would say, what are you up to? I was like, I'm acting. But I wasn't doing, I was just going home and eating in my sleep and sleeping all day and then coming to work, and that's it. And that wasn't enough for me. But at least most people who become waiters when they're pursuing something else are doing something that feeds their soul in some way. There's no shame in being a career waiter. It's just not what I wanted to do.
Sure.
So when you're doing something that you don't want to be doing, it's hard.
It's soul sucking. It's soul sucking. It makes you feel like you're dead. Truly.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people identify with it because if we're honest about it, that's not true. Not the vast majority of people are doing something they don't like, but there's a huge portion of the population who got stuck along the way, kind of like in a job. It doesn't have to be a waitressing job, just in a job.
More. So then it becomes, I agree, there's a lot of people, it's not like, oh, well, I don't love my job, but I have to feed my kids. And so then it becomes okay, well, then what are you doing when you're outside of work?
Exactly.
Even if it's for 5 minutes a day, but what are you doing then to create some kind of joy or self-care or fun or whatever, or something you do like? And if the answer is nothing, then it's well, take a look at that, right? It's
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Sophie and I are not very good at holding jobs down.
That don't fulfill us. I think it's just that don't fulfill us.
Yeah,
like,
almost period, to be perfectly
I had
honest.
a lot of jobs in my, in my life that I did, but like my first job I kept for 6 years.
Did you?
I had a bookstore job. Like I
think that's amazing.
a barista and like making coffees, and then had a...
And it's in New York?
No.
Oh, I thought you said Upper East Side.
Oh, no.
What did you say?
So Jen has a slight hearing...
Slight? She's winking when she says that. I cannot hear without my hearing aids. And I've been joking about this, but now everyone says I shouldn't. My next book, I want it to be things I miss here, but like miss in parentheses, things I hear. And because the things that I think I hear are hilarious.
Oh my God, it's amazing.
What did you say? I thought you said Upper East Side.
I said...
I was a barista.
A barista.
Barista. See?
Upper East
Barista,
Side.
barista.
Upper East Side.
Same.
Hilarious.
Same.
I would have bet my life that you said Upper
That's
East Side.
funny. That would be a really funny book. Things I thought I heard or think I misheard or something like that. I love that. So you were saying you were there for 6 years.
Yeah, I mean, my point is like, if I'm fulfilled, I am loyal. I am, I just have to be fulfilled. I think all of us have that nature. And for me, like, I mean, I've been working with Philosophy, my superfood company, for 9 years now.
Wow.
And I'm not making money from it, but it's fulfilling. So I haven't quit. I'm not going anywhere.
Go buy more Philosophy, everybody.
Yeah.
Sophie needs it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's on sale this week.
Yeah.
No, it's not. I don't know, actually. Great. Now they're going to have to make it on sale.
Now we can make it on sale. Thank you very much, Jen.
Yeah. But I think, that's the point, is like the element of fulfillment, of joy. And if you can balance it, if you can have a job, whatever it might be, in a bookstore, waiting tables, and you find that fulfillment and joy outside of there, and then that allows you to go there and show up and be your best self, great. But I think the question is for the person listening who has a feeling in the pit of their stomach right now as they're listening, and they know that they can have more and do more and be more in their lives, no matter what it is. If you went to school to be a lawyer, for 8 years or however long it takes to pass the bar, and you do, and you're not fulfilled, that's okay. And just know that you can do and be whatever you want. But the point is that you're being fulfilled and that you're experiencing joy.
Yeah. And I think that's a point that I like, Jen, that you made, which is, look, not everybody is going to have purpose in their work. They're just not. Like, somebody needs to make the Ford automobiles that we drive, right? Like, somebody has to put bolts in wheels. And I mean, if that's what you love doing, by all means, but I don't know how many people love putting bolts in tires. But how important then to make sure that there are other aspects of your life that make up and lift you up? Because I think what we've come to is this expectation that the supporting of the family is somehow enough. And when you were working as a waitress for 14 years, you made enough money to live, and yet it was soul sucking. So you started teaching yoga, and that attracted you, which I think is really interesting, by the way, that you were so anti that or thought you could never do it. But then once a little bit of the depression lifted, you sought it out and then found success in it.
Yes. And also because, I joke, I'm not that good at yoga, and because I get there's no such thing, but like, I'm really not, bendy, and there's a lot I can't do. But it's what I realized, what I discovered when I started teaching yoga, is I was a really good teacher, and I'm really good with people. And I've always been a really good teacher. So whether or not I can do this or that or the other thing, but I'm a good teacher. And then I found this thing that I'd always wanted my whole life, which is to connect with people. And I discovered, and that's what I did at the restaurant, why I was good, because I was a terrible waitress, but I was a good connector. Same with the yoga. And I had my own flourishes. I'd read a poem and whatever my things were that I do to make it feel creative. But I found a way to connect. And yes, the depression started to lift with the antidepressants, and I was able to, I don't know, see like a pinprick of light or possibility where there wasn't any before, ever.
Yeah. Which is so key. That hope, right? Again, Sophie mentioned, for anybody listening right now and you're getting that pit in your stomach because that's the place you're stuck at, I think the key is keep looking. Keep looking for the thing that's going to lift you up. And then listen, Sophie, you were saying this earlier, and just pay attention to your intuition, right? Like, if you start a new activity, you start a new thing, and it gives you a little bit of joy, go with it.
Totally.
It doesn't matter what it is. Like, play with kids 3 times a week outside of work, to like be an assistant in a kindergarten, like whatever it is, an after school program. I think a lot of us, you mentioned this before, Jen, too, is a lot of us, if we really pay attention and listen, and we'll talk about this in the book, because I think you talk about this in the book. If we really pay attention and listen, our intuition is there. It's been there the whole time. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's been screaming at us, hey, idiot, like you're looking the wrong way.
Exactly.
And we've been pushing it down for so long.
Exactly.
That we kind of purposefully almost shut it off. But if you start paying attention again, it'll give you the signal.
Completely. Paying attention is key. And it's not always easy, especially when we're overworked or overtired, or
it's hard to hear it.
Great point. Or a habitual thing for me used to be to disconnect or to float away and not be in my body. So sometimes paying attention is real hard.
Yeah. When did the manifestation yoga thing start for you? When did you start taking yoga outside of just the asana practice and into more?
I know it's funny because now I bring a yoga teacher along on my retreats, and I don't, it's so different than it was when it first started. But so I was obsessed with Wayne Dyer, and my mom had tried for years to get me to listen to Wayne Dyer and read Wayne Dyer and Susie Orman. And both were a hard no. And then one day I started listening to Wayne on my iPod, and I was like, I like this guy. And in fact, I loved him. And I would listen to him hours a day. And that's not an exaggeration, hours. In the car, I would do these walks after my shift. And so like his words, I feel like entered my DNA and just started to profoundly affect me. So when I started teaching, and then I did my first workshop and my first retreat, and I had no idea what I was doing. And I said, let's meditate on, I don't even know how to meditate. Meditate on what? And what came out of my mouth was, what we're manifesting. And I realized, because I had been listening to Wayne, I just basically was repeating him. But I thought, oh, look what I did this, actually. I manifested this. There's 27 people here at this retreat. I've been working at the restaurant for 14 years. I've only been a yoga teacher for like 5 minutes, a couple months, And oh my God, I manifested this. And then I started looking around, and I realized, wow, I am more powerful than I thought. And I did create this. And basically, I just started sharing my journey with people and telling the truth. And then as I started writing again, essays and blogs, I started developing a following, like quote unquote. And then I started getting more creative and more confident with letting go over time, with letting the yoga part go more and more in the asana. Because in the beginning I thought, how will I get people in the room and then trick them? Like, once I can't say, oh, here's a yoga retreat and then do whatever. And now I don't even call it a yoga retreat. Never. You'll never hear me say that come out of my mouth. I will never say that. And other people might. So-and-so will say, oh, I'm going with Jen Pastiloff on a yoga retreat, and that's fine. But I don't say that. So, it started, I suppose, in the very beginning, and it's just morphed and transformed into what it is now over time, with age, with confidence, with experience, with the thousands of people I've worked with.
It's the same idea of just you found your own voice in the class.
Bingo. And really let go of what I thought it should look like.
Exactly. The shoulds, like what other people are doing. You just created your own thing.
Well, and the truth was, I was like, oh, I want to do a workshop. And so I was in Philadelphia, where I'm from, and the studio said I could do a workshop there. And the same thing, I thought, oh my God, what have I done? What kind of yoga workshop am I going to do? Arm balance? No. Handstand? No. Like, I can't even do any yoga. So I said, we're going to make it on, it's going to be called, What Are You Manifesting in Your Life? And so there was yoga in it, but it wasn't, and it's just transformed so much that now most of the people that come to me have never even done yoga.
Oh, wow.
Oh, it's like when there's a person that's actually a yoga person, it's so weird and random. And I love that.
Yeah. I love that so much of the story is, first of all, I love Wayne Dyer. He's ridiculous. And we'll have a link to some of his stuff.
Oh, Wayne is...
It's
may
like
he
magic.
rest in peace. Yeah, and now his daughters, and especially his daughter Sky, is like one of my dearest friends.
I mean, I have a quote of his that I use all the time in my talks, which is change the way you look at things, and the things you look at change. Which is just it's also part of what you just talked about.
It makes
here,
me
right?
want to cry, the truth in it. It
I
really
know.
does.
Say it again.
Well, change the way you look at things, and the things you look at change. It's all about perspective, right?
100%.
And we've all grown up with the truth. Like, if your job is to find work that pays the bills and supports your family, and then everything will be okay and you'll be happy. We get presented as a truth. I now talk about it as like a script. Like, somebody hands us a book and they go, read this book, and it's the directions on how to live. But it's bullshit. It's somebody's script. And when Wayne says change the way you look at things and the things you look at change, what he's saying is there is no real objective truth. The way you look at things defines them. Period, point blank. I was listening to Bruce Lipton today on the way back in here. I don't know if you've ever heard of him.
Yeah. Not terribly familiar, but I have heard of him.
But he talks a lot about the quantum physics component of who we are. And like, we're people and we see ourselves as people. But if you really dig down to cells, and if anybody's ever studied like what an atom is like 99.999% dead space, empty space. Like, when you really look at an atom, there's like a tiny little thing in the middle with some electrons that are flying around it. But really...
Oh, you're bringing me back to Is it chemistry?
Chemistry.
Chemistry. I was like, oh man, I don't even remember. Is it biology?
But it's like, remember that drawing of like, here's a nucleus.
Yeah.
And that means almost none of the cell at an atom level is actually matter. It's just empty space.
Wayne Dyer used to talk about this stuff all the time too.
About energy. And so they talk about how all we really are like this combination of attracted energy that we see as people. And why do we see it as people, which I think is amazing to think of, is there's light projecting onto you. That light hits your cells.
Is this my good light, Adi?
This is a great light. We got daylight coming in, but we get so fixated on what we see as truth.
Oh yeah.
And to recognize, just like for you at, working at Newsroom 10, 12 years into it, you thought to yourself, this is what life is.
100%. One of my favorite quotes, and I learned it from Wayne, but it's not originally his. It's not what you it's not what you don't know that gets you in trouble. It's what you think you know for sure that just ain't so. And that's why, coming back to when I was saying embrace the not knowing, with when people were like, how are you going to do this? How are you going to have a baby and travel every week and keep, doing these workshops and expend all this energy? And I said, watch me. And I truly had no idea, but I knew I would.
Yeah.
I don't know. And where we get into trouble is when we think we know, when we actually have no idea.
And that's kind of the world we live in now, right?
That's how what?
The world that we live in now is a world full of a lot of people who think they have it all figured out.
Yeah.
Just, this is the reality. This is truth. You just have to come to my side. And by the way, I think it happens on both sides. I'm not even talking politically like liberals versus kind of conservatives. It's all around. You get this notion that this is the truth. This is the reality.
Oh yeah.
And so late in life, you're 40 years old, you get pregnant.
Late in life?
Well, after you thought you didn't want to have a baby, right?
I know, yeah. Yeah, I know. I'm just giving you a hard time.
The one thing you're never supposed to do.
I'm just giving you a hard time because I am really attempting to, and I will change the narrative about age. But in terms of because it's called geriatric pregnancy. I think when you're pregnant, it really is past what is it?
Sick. That's
37?
the sickest name.
Isn't
Horrible.
it weird? It's like Google. It's like whatever. In your late 30s, you become it's geriatric pregnancy. So luckily, my doctor never said that to me. But I became pregnant, and it was different than the first time. The first time I was pregnant, I freaked out. Mind you, what I left out of the story is when I was pregnant with the ectopic, I had come off antidepressants. And it was literally the day that I finally was off them, I found out I was pregnant. So it was like my brain, it was such a, coming off meds already was so hard. And then, so now this is a couple years later and I'm pregnant again. And this time though, I did not have the same reaction. This time I wasn't excited, but I wasn't crying. I wasn't panicking. I remember telling you right away,
She was pointing at Sophie, by the way.
Pointing at Sophie, yes. Yeah, not a D.
Yeah,
That'd be weird.
Jen did not call me to tell me she was
a D.
I have to tell you something really
I'm
important.
pregnant with your child. Sophie, I have something to tell you.
A D Ernie told me it's fine.
Oh
Why do you think Charlie has blonde hair? So, but I didn't feel anything. I really just felt like, I don't know if numb's a word, but I wasn't panicked. Then they found out something might be wrong with the baby. I did. What do you mean they? I'm speaking in third person. I found out something might be wrong with the baby, and I had to have I think it's called CVS, which is basically like an amno, but they stick a needle in your stomach or your vagina, and they test the baby's DNA, and turns out he was okay. He's a carrier of something called Fragile X, but he doesn't have it. And I guess I'm a carrier. I didn't know. So once I found out he was okay, and that it was a boy, which I grieved over weirdly, I was positive I was having a girl. So I found out he was okay. And then I started feeling things, like letting myself feel excitement. And that was weird because I had never thought I wanted a child. And what was the weirdest was how great I felt pregnant. Had I known how much it helped with my depression and my mood and like body image, everything, I was like, I would have had like 6 kids. Oh my God. I loved it.
Just the hormone change made you feel better.
Better than any meds.
That's amazing.
In my whole life, I've never felt as good as I did when I was pregnant. And my hair looked the best.
That's amazing.
And it makes sense because I really have terrible PMS. I have a lot of issues with my hormones. So whatever was going on, it leveled out. And I felt, and I wasn't drinking, and I wasn't drinking as much coffee, and I was really, especially someone who I had a severe eating disorder, I definitely went crazy with eating. I was like, every night I ate pizza. Every night I was like, because I was like, this is it. I'm not doing this again. I'm not getting pregnant again. I am going to town.
No doubt. We eating was definitely fun during pregnancy.
Oh, I mean, it always is.
Yeah, we lived it up, especially with Kai. He gained as much weight as I did.
I gained 15 pounds.
15?
15.
You only gained 15 pounds
in the first trimester.
No, I did.
No, I know you, but I thought you meant
no, she gained like 30.
I gained between 35 and 40 with all my pregnancies. It's the exact same. And the interesting thing is that I ate differently with each pregnancy. I had different cravings. I was different in each pregnancy. And even with Noah, I was older. I gained the same amount. It didn't matter if I would have eaten vegetables all day, I would have gained the same amount. Your body's going to do what your body's going to do. The baby's going to get what the baby needs. The baby's going to hold on to fat, build fat in the same way. Like, you can try and control it, or you can let loose and like live your best life. It doesn't really matter because you're going to lose it.
I certainly did that. And I did not read one pregnancy. I didn't even own any book. I didn't even know how, I swear on Charlie. I was like, what's the deepest thing I could swear on? Yeah. I did not know how to change a diaper until my son was born. They showed me in the hospital.
I love that.
I mean, I really was like,
I love
here's
that.
the adventure.
How crazy is it when they first,
Truly.
like, the kid's born in the hospital and you have all this help, and then they're like, okay, you're ready to go home. You're like, no, I'm not.
Wait, you guys, I was over at Cedar Sinai and I wanted to stay another day.
Yeah.
Because I was like, oh my God, you get taken care of, and they come in and they feed the baby. Are you joking? And we went home and I had no idea what to do.
We were freaked out. I'm like, wait, you're just going to leave us with the baby?
Yeah, but you were younger. At least like you, I don't know. There's something about like you, like I got to this age and I've never even changed a diaper. How in the name of God am I going to do this? But somehow you do.
And then it just all works.
It's part of the adventure, just like anything. It's just like, going with a backpack through Europe your first time, or any type of adventure where you just jump. I think that's what parenting is. It's like, we're going to do this. And no, it's not the perfect timing. It's not the perfect situation.
That's actually a chapter in my book, I think. Wouldn't that be funny if I'm just making it? I mean, I know it's in the book, but I'm not sure if it's a chapter.
Yeah.
It's called There's No Right Time for Anything.
There's no right time for anything. People always ask, and it's like, the right time, just leap, just jump, because there's always going to be stuff. Like, we were going through one of the hardest times of our life during being pregnant with Kai, and we just leaped. And guess what? Kai's the happiest, most loving, most amazing, brilliant child. And it was a great process.
Yeah. Plus, you're not in control of it. This book I'm reading right now, it uses extreme ownership, and it uses Marine and Navy SEAL military examples, and then puts them on the business, the business world. But one of the things that he says is, look, you got to keep your plan simple and straightforward. And why is that? Because the enemy also plays a part. The enemy gets a vote too in what works and what doesn't. And the guy in the business example is like, what do you mean the enemy? He goes, well, you can make all the plan you want. And then the world makes plans with it. And the world, because you set out like you want to write this book and you had ideas and you had the process. I remember seeing your post about you like going away and isolating yourself to go sit and write.
But let's be clear for anyone listening. I am the queen of no process, no schedule. I don't even know how I remembered to come here today. I'm like the worst. I am the flakiest. It's not even, it's just that I don't write anything down. And it's a way to self-sabotage. And I think growing up in chaos, but I don't have any kind of process. So when people ask about like your writing process, it's just, I sold the book on proposal. Then I had a year or less than a year
to write it.
8 months to get it done. And I live in a 1-bedroom with a toddler. So I was like, how the fuck am I? The only way I could possibly do this is if I go away and put myself in a hotel.
Yeah. Yeah. So I remember seeing those posts and it's like, and I'm sure sometimes you're like, okay, I've got a plan. I'm going to leave at 10 a.m. And then shit happens. And like at 4 p.m. you get out of the house because that's the way
that's every day of my life.
Because that's the way that day works.
I don't leave the house.
Yeah. So it's like... But that is reality. And so I think part of it, like what I've learned from all these masters of spirituality and awareness is take a deep breath, put your best plan forward and fucking go with it. Because
I think that's the best
that's
way
all
to
you
be.
got. That's all you got. I mean, because you can be uber type A and plan for everything. And then when a wrench gets thrown in your plan, you go, oh, it's all fucked. But that's going to happen every day. That's not like we did a podcast on problems versus realities.
See, what I thought you said was proms versus realities.
Prom was difficult for me. No, problems versus realities.
Okay.
A lot of people think that they have problems in life that they need to solve, but in reality, it's just a reality you have to get used to. So, like, other people fucking up your plans on a daily basis is a reality. That's not a problem. You're never going to solve it. Like, you may want to do something and then your kid needs something. And guess what? That's going to ruin your plan. So a lot of people get super frustrated at it and they try to put all these boundaries and all these super complex controls so that it never happens. And then it keeps happening and they keep getting more and more frustrated versus saying, okay, I'm going to allow like 15 to 30% flexibility around my plans to allow for fucked up shit that I couldn't expect and just imagine
I do that with leading
happen.
retreats, but I'll tell you, it took years. 10 years. What have I been doing? I'm 10 years now. It took years to get that way. Not that I was ever organized or structured, but really in letting go of the attachment of like, okay, things can go wrong, and there might be that one person, and
there will be that one person.
Okay, there will be. I'm leaving for one on Wednesday, so I'm like, let's not say that. But yes, it's right now. My retreat on Wednesday is in France. It starts on the weekend, and it's like a little colder than it should be, and it's going to rain maybe, and there's all these things, and I used to get really upset of like, especially with the weather stuff.
Exactly.
And
like,
now,
who the fuck control the damn
totally
weather?
But so my mom sent me a screenshot of the weather in France, and I just went back, it's going to be perfect.
Yep. And it will be.
Because it's like, first of all, what are you going to do?
No, nothing.
What exactly?
Nothing.
And also, you're in fucking France.
I know.
So, like, if someone's there and they're having an issue, then they're cuckoo because you're in France.
Yeah.
You're in South France, or Italy, or wherever it is, and you're, in this beautiful experience. So,
Well,
it's perspective, right?
We talk to Leo about this all the time. So Leo, hopefully you listen to this when he's older and not soon. But Leo has this thing he can always pout about. Like, Leo wakes up in the morning and he's like, oh, I got to go to school. I'm like, your eyes just opened.
He sounds like me. Oh my God.
How are you pouting already?
I was born like an old Jewish bubby.
So we just had a 2.5 day weekend from heaven, following, by the way, 2 weeks ago, a water park adventure of a lifetime this kid had. Okay, so 2.5 days, all the food you can eat, a water park with like a pool. His grandparents came to join us. One of our friends came the day before. It was heaven for 2.5 days in heaven in Palos Verdes, like Terranea.
Oh yeah, that is heaven.
Heaven. We're about to leave, and his grandparents are there, and he's pouting. I'm like, what the hell is wrong? He goes, Mommy said that we might be able to go home with them, with his grandparents. And I go, hold on, you just ended like 80 hours of the best weekend any kid could ever wish for, and you're sad because one potential thing that could have happened, nobody promised you, one potential thing that could have happened is not happening. And now that's it. Like it rode off 2.5 days. I go, just pay attention. Like, how much fun did you have this weekend? And he goes a lot. And he's still like, he has a hard time connecting to the enjoyment. And I think a lot of adults go through that all the time because the plan didn't end up matching what they wanted. And all of a sudden, and by the way, I used to be a lot worse on this. Like when we first met, like one thing doesn't go right and it writes off everything. And I think it's a practice we have to take on to go, everything is perfect. The weather is perfect because it is what it is. So I can't do anything about it.
It's good that you're teaching him that now because, our patterns stay with us our whole lives.
Yeah.
It's not like the way that I am now. It's not like I woke up one day. I mean, I've been this way for a long time.
Yeah.
We work a lot on the unlearning of patterns with ourselves. So we see the patterns with our kids and we're trying to prevent that because we are constantly unlearning and unpatterning. So we're trying to save them a little bit of that time, but they'll still have their stuff.
I was going to say, we
no
all
matter
fuck up
what,
our kids
we all have our stuff
to a degree, and that's human.
So Adi and I focus a lot on radical transparency, and I feel like you've been doing that for a while. I feel like you're aligned with that mission of between us with cheating we've gone through and lies and betrayal throughout the last 15 years, especially in the first 5. We had a lot of stuff that happened. And the way that we...
See, I thought you just said sex. Okay.
No.
I mean, we also had a lot of sex.
No,
it sounded
not really.
like you said we had a lot of sex that happened.
Yeah, not really, actually, because of the cheating and the... So for us, that's what's healed us, is being radically transparent together in all ways. And now,
awesome.
And now it's on social media, it's on our podcast, it is everywhere to the point where I have vulnerability hangovers all the time where, if I take an edible and a little bit too much, I start to freak out and I think, oh my gosh, we're too honest. We need to delete everything and cancel everything. But this is what's healed us and been the answer. So I want you to speak a little bit to what radical transparency means to you.
Well, I thank you for acknowledging that I've been doing that for a long time. And it's funny because now it is more common, but when I first started talking about antidepressants and depression and I was teaching yoga, it was not heard of. Yeah. It was like the weirdest thing and it was a really big deal. And it wasn't that many years ago. Let's say it was 2010 or 11 when I started really being honest about that online and in essays. I wouldn't say it's tricky. I wouldn't say that I'm radically transparent with everything because it's not everyone's business, every detail of our lives.
Sure.
But I tell the truth about who I am.
Yep.
You've had a lot of hashtags that I love, and one of them is "Don't be an asshole."
Yeah, it's my favorite.
Which I love. And you carried that around for a while. To me, that is part radical transparency because the idea is
well, it's about yourself.
It's calling yourself on your stuff.
Yes.
Right, and also letting other people know. I had that one post a little while ago, which was stop talking shit about other people. Just fucking stop doing it. If you're one of those people who's talking shit about other people, then I can't trust you because when I walk out the room, you're probably talking shit about me.
Exactly.
Say the shit you want to say to my face and let's figure it out instead of waiting until I go smiling in my face. And that's what it always makes me imagine when I'm hanging out with somebody who brings a third person who's not around into the room. So to me, don't be an asshole was one of those call outs generally for all of us.
Yep.
Pay attention to the fucking way you behave. You're an adult. You have responsibility here. And if we could all do that more.
I agree with you, but I feel like for me, at least when I say it, it's let's be clear, there are assholes out there, including all of us. We've all been assholes at times. Everyone's an asshole sometimes. Quote me on that.
Oh my God, that's a book name if I've ever heard one.
It is. Everyone is an asshole. If you can look me in the eye
sometime.
right now and say I'm never an asshole, you're an asshole.
We're
Everyone
all
is an
assholes.
asshole sometimes.
First, I was an asshole for 13 years straight.
Exactly, right? But even some days, I'm sure some days
Totally.
whatever, you're
100%.
tired or you're overworked or you're broke or you're hungry or you're in labor, whatever.
Yeah.
it just gets tricky when we're calling other people. Don't be an asshole. It's really toward ourselves when we catch when I catch myself gossiping, or when I catch myself, oh, I want to be this kind person, or I want to be of service, or whatever it is, and yet I look at what I'm doing and I'm not reflecting that. Or I'm like moaning because I didn't get upgraded on a flight. It's like, okay, don't be an asshole, you're flying. Or don't be an asshole, look what you get to do. So a lot of the thing, I find myself doing I have to do X, Y, or Z. And I've seen so many people say this, but I love when they go switch the perspective I get to.
Yeah.
And that's a whole asshole thing.
Powerful.
It's like, stop being an asshole. You get to do this, Jen. You get to go and lead a retreat, and you get to, you don't have to work in the restaurant anymore. You get to do this. So shut up.
Totally. I mean, if you take it to the nth degree, I get to do dishes because I have dishes, and I have a home with like dish soap. It's like.
And it is good to take it to the nth degree because it keeps us, I think,
grounded and grateful, I think, and like humble
and appreciative.
Yeah.
Like I don't always have to be grateful for my new car and my sick $3 million house. Like everybody's going to be fucking grateful for that. How do you become grateful for like the fact that on Tuesdays I take my kids to school because I get to spend 30 extra minutes in the car with them? Or sometimes when some of my clients, because I use the 5-minute journal a lot with myself and clients, and sometimes like when you can't think of shit, like how about I'm grateful the sun came up today. I'm grateful that I woke up with a roof over my head. Like
my friend. This is my friend Emily, whose son died years ago. She has another child now, but one day we were just saying, sometimes we get in this pattern where we were saying like crappy things, and we allow each other to say that to ourselves, not about each other, but about ourselves. Oh. And so I said, tell me one good thing. And it became this thing. Tell me one good thing. And it can literally be, the sun came up today. I opened my eyes. One good thing. Tell me one good thing.
Yeah.
I love that.
And you can all like,
tell me one good thing.
I don't care any of you listening right now, no matter how upset you were or are currently about what's happening in your life, there's also good shit. And the reason that I think it's important to pay attention to it is, when you learn about the brain and about cognitive biases and about attention, and your brain learns what to focus on. And if you always teach it to focus always, and I have clients like this, always on the things that needs to be fixed and the thing that needs to be addressed, then you can be on top of the world, having just climbed Mount Kilimanjaro with like the love of your life next to you, having just won the lottery, your kid just won the spelling bee internationally, and you just bought a new jet, and you're thinking to yourself, fuck, I didn't do it fast enough. Like, if you're that guy, you're never going to be happy.
Right.
Ever. So yes, go after things, and yes, go after achievements and have goals. But you have to be able to stop and appreciate your wins, because if not, what the hell? I don't even understand the point, right? And so the gratitude thing, like I wake up every day, and unless like weekends, I'm not great at it on the weekends or we're on vacation, but when we're home every day, I wake up and I do my like 3 things I'm grateful for. And most days,
do you say them out loud?
No, I write. I have a journal that I write them in.
That's great. I love that.
I like the idea of saying them out loud, though.
I do it with my kids twice a day. I do it twice a day because it's we have a lot of behavioral things with Leo, so it's really important to keep him grounded and remembering, and it takes him out of wherever he is. If he's in a funk or in a mood, the minute that we talk about those things, he becomes softer. He just does.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's what beauty hunting is. You know beauty hunting. You've been around my workshops, but it's this idea of to stop and find the 5 most beautiful things right now. And it's not like of your life. It's right now.
Yeah.
And what that does is it causes you to pay attention. Earlier, I was saying how hard it can be to pay attention. It's one tangible tool. And also, it forces you to become an active beauty hunter, to look for the things that are beautiful rather than what's wrong.
Yeah.
And it allows you to find beauty even in hard times or painful times or shitty times or rainy times or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
It's always there. There's always beauty.
But sometimes you have to look real hard for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially when you're not doing well. And
I know.
And it's a practice, right? So the more you do it, I'm sure the better you get at being able to find the things.
Yep.
Well, awesome. I think this is a perfect segue. We ask all of our guests 5 questions.
Go for it.
And the first one is, what has been your proudest moment?
I mean, I feel like the the answer I should say
No,
is when my
don't say
son was
that.
born. I know.
No.
Say the one that comes to you.
I know he's holding up my book. Okay, my book. But also right before I came here, I swear, Charlie, I was running late a couple hours ago actually before he went to school, and he asked me to read him a book, and I was sitting on the sofa with him, and I felt so proud. I thought, I wish my dad was here. I wish my dad could see this. I'm so proud. It wasn't when he was born. Yes, I loved him when he was born, but it took time. I got to know him, and now his personalities come out. But the book is a different thing. Mm-hmm. It's something that I don't feel like I can take credit for Charlie.
Yeah.
He's his own person. This is something like I did this.
Yeah. And you
So
deserved
okay, my book on
your
being
book.
human.
Bam. And by the way, we'll have a link to it. I just want to, like everybody gets quotes for their books.
Yeah.
These are
They're pretty good. I will say that. They're pretty.
It makes me can I be honest? It makes me a little jealous reading these quotes. And I mean, props.
It makes me jealous, and
you.
it's my book.
I love you.
Go
But
ahead.
Glennon Doyle, Cheryl Strayed, Andrew Solomon, Patton Oswalt, Pink, Emily Rapp Black, these are the people that are the quotes at the just on the sleeve of your book. And I think that's a testament to all the work that you've done for the last 10 years, because these people weren't, no offense, but these people weren't writing on the back of your book when you were miserable.
I didn't have a book.
When you were miserable waiting tables at newsroom.
No, but
This is you. This is your work.
I'm so glad you made the jealousy comment right now, because it's so real, and it doesn't mean you're sitting in that. You have the feeling.
I
and you're
love you, and I'm happy for
and
you.
It's not, jealousy probably isn't the right word. It's more it's like how I feel being at your house. Or yesterday, I live in a tiny 1-bedroom, and yesterday I was having house envy, and I'm I'm jealous. It's not jealous in a way that I don't want her to have it. It's it's an envy, but I think it's also tricky because we feel that because we also forget that there's enough. Sometimes it's they got to it first.
Oh no,
or
not
whatever it may
at all.
be.
So I love it.
But
that's so awesome.
I am. Yeah, no, they weren't giving me blurbs 10 years ago, but that's because I finally did the thing I said I was going to do, which is why I feel that this is the thing I'm the most proud of, is because I've never been one to finish anything. And my follow through, my organizational skills, all of that stuff is not so great. And so I said I was going to write a book, and I wrote a book. And not only did I write a book, but it's got these incredible blurbs and a huge publisher. And it's I did this.
Yeah.
I'm gonna talk to you after, because not everybody needs to listen to it, but about the power of getting an assistant. And I'm not joking. It's not a money thing. I wouldn't be alive without an assistant.
Well, my mother is my sort of assistant, and yes.
Yeah.
And thank God I have my publisher, my in-house publicist at Dutton, and my marketing person, and they're right now sort of that. But oh yeah, especially because of my skills that don't exist in organizing.
Well,
trust me.
Our the strengths and the weaknesses of who we are. My assistant helps me with the things where I'm not as strong in.
Oh yeah,
and that's okay and great.
And by the way, the first question was, what's the best advice you've ever received? So we flipped them. But I actually really want to hear this one from you, because you do study all these amazing people. What's the best advice you've ever heard from
my own. Don't be an asshole.
Yeah.
There you go.
No, honestly, there's so many. It's such a good question. But one of them was the quote I said earlier, Wayne Dyer. And he didn't say it to me personally. It's a story I've heard him tell, but it's not what you don't know that gets you in trouble. It's what you think you know for sure that just ain't so.
Yeah, that's powerful.
It really is. And it changes my life. And every time I think about it, every time I remember that, it's really letting go of what we think we know for sure.
Totally. I love it.
That's where the magic happens.
I love it. So Sophie asked, what's the thing you're proudest of? The flip side of that is, what is one of your most difficult or painful experiences to date?
To date?
First one that comes to mind.
First one that comes to mind is my father dying.
Yeah.
Is unexpected. And we had a fight, and I said, I hate you. And then he died, and I was 8. But also my nephew, my nephew has a really rare, terrible genetic disease called genetic disorder, not a disease, different, called Prader-Willi syndrome. And it's awful. in the day, and it's still awful, but the day that my sister texted me that he has it, and I talk about it in the book, but it's just one of those, like, there's no going back. And it's like out of a science fiction film. It really, there's something, either the 15th chromosome, it's either partially deleted or fully deleted, and it manifests itself in lots of ways, but the hardest is it makes the person starving all the time. So there's something wrong with their hypothalamus. So it's not like they could get their stomach stapled or whatever. So, and it's different degrees because it's a spectrum, but my sister has to padlock the refrigerator. You can like never turn your back. So it's incredibly hard for my sister, hardest life of anyone, but also the person who has it. I mean, they're in pain all the time, 24/7. All they want to do is eat.
Wow.
And it's just so sad and hard. And so that diagnosis and my father dying, yeah.
Wow.
So you inspire so many, and you have a son, you're a mom, and you're on the go. When you're on the go, when things get hard, when you feel anxious or depressed, what tools do you use? What self-care
Xanax.
do you
Just
go
kidding.
to?
Great. No, actually, well, now that
Yeah.
we're telling the truth, I was taking too much. I had it like my emergency stash. And I was like taking it every night, and I noticed I was getting, this was only like maybe 2 months ago now, I was getting really depressed, and I realized it was making me really fucking depressed. So
Makes
I stopped
sense.
taking it. I have it for an emergency if I have like a full-blown panic attack. But what do I do? What tools do I have? Exercise is really big for me. And I wish I did more yoga, but I do like the elliptical or the treadmill, and I watch shows. So
Great.
that's my thing.
Self-care.
I check out, self-care. And my best friend and I, we make videos, laughing with my son or being silly, making videos with him, or dance parties, or, just being, he calls me silly mommy, just being utterly silly and ridiculous and dorky.
How healing is that?
It's just the best.
Just to completely
just to
let
be
go.
like a child. Sleep. Although sometimes that's a double-edged sword, because I also use sleep as a way to deal with depression. So a lot of times I'll like go to sleep when I don't want to deal with
The
life.
world.
Yeah. But yeah, I think exercise is the biggest and the healthiest, besides playing with Charlie.
I think it's all healthy, though. That's the thing, is
Well,
I think...
Xanax, not so much. Not taking it every day, but...
Sure, not taking it
Yeah.
every day. Everything, nothing in excess, right?
Well, yeah, and that's...
Everything in moderation, including moderation.
God. Anyone that has that figured it out, call
But
me.
even the TV shows, like for me, I won't watch TV alone. I won't. There's something wrong with me. So have you ever been to Shape House?
No, what is it?
I'm going to take you. It's
Oh my God,
infrared.
you should totally go.
Oh, yeah.
I'm gonna-
Wait, is it the sweat?
Sweat House, like Shape
Yes,
House.
my friend asked me and I got scared.
Oh, did you go?
She bought me a session and I didn't
Okay,
go.
we'll go together. It's really
Okay.
fun. But the best part about it for me is that you go into this little sleeping bag. You can't be on your phone. You can't be doing the dishes or doing something else. You cannot do anything.
But you can watch a show, right?
They hand you a
Yeah.
little remote into the sleeping bag, which is infrared. You're laying in pitch black.
No, see, I already, like right now you're talking about it. I'm having
I know.
claustrophobia.
But it's not like you're wrapped in. You can get out at
Okay.
any minute. You
Okay.
It's a sleeping bag.
Okay.
It just happens to make you warm.
And do you feel really good? Like you just got out of like a, what do you call that?
You burn
Bikram
like
yoga?
800 calories.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So you go, and it forces you to watch TV. So the first few times, I'm like, I'm just going to sit here. I don't need to watch any shows. I'm like, what? I'm
Wait, so
going to treat
wait,
my-
hold on. Let me get this right. You don't watch any shows.
I watch nothing alone. I just have never watched shows alone. I don't know what it is.
Yeah,
I
you're
really,
weird. That's all. I like hide in the bathroom to finish watching my shows.
I mean, literally like 4 or 5 times a year, I'll be like, what did you do? Because I was out of town, and she'll be alone and she'll watch a show.
I try
But,
and
like,
force
4
myself.
times
I
a
write
year.
my friends. I'm like, what should I watch? Like The Bachelor. And I like
See, I've never seen that in my life.
I need something to get into that's easy, because I don't have a pattern or a habit of it.
yeah.
Anyway, but all I'm saying is, to one person, watching shows could be not good. Like you said, the top things.
Actually, I was about to call you a D. Sophie, I have that line in my book where it says, I'm saying we all have to have our tools, whether it's yoga, whether it's watching Netflix.
Yeah.
Literally,
So-
it's for me, it's like when I'm in that bag, I don't have to take care of anyone. I can't micromanage the au pair, the babysitters, a D, my employees. Like I just am there alone. And whether I watch a TED Talk or I watch a series, I am alone, and it's all for my own pleasure. And that is amazing. And that is self-care. Truly.
Amen.
So our last question, the name of our podcast is Ignited. What ignites you?
Connection.
Still connection.
Yeah.
It's always been connection.
Yeah. And it always looks different. Like sometimes it's like, sitting here, making eye contact, having an exciting conversations, or it's with my son, or it could be even during sex. It could be reading a book where it makes my arm hair stand up, or where I feel like, oh, I wish I wrote that, or I never want to put it down. But connection.
I love it.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Beautiful.
Connection.
I'm so glad we finally got to do this.
Me too.
The minute we started our podcast, I was like, we need to have Jen on.
I know.
A year ago.
It's only been a year and a half.
It really has been a while.
I know. Well, some things happened in the middle.
Yeah.
Sophie got pregnant, had a baby, little stuff. We moved like twice. Thank you so much for joining
Thank
us.
you.
Amazing. On Being Human is the book with all those amazing quotes coming from the fact that the content is so good that all those people were like, hell yeah, I'll put my quote on that book.
Yep.
And guaranteed, because I've been at your workshops, I just know that there's so much power for people to figure out what being human looks like for them so they can live their best life. So thanks for doing all that for all these people and for joining us.
We love you.
Thank you for having me on this adventure.
We're always cheering you on.
Hell yeah.
Always.
Love you.
See you all next week. Thank you, everybody, for listening to the Ignited podcast. We were so happy to have you along for this ride. Please go and subscribe to this. Leave us a review. We love hearing from you. And if you want more, don't forget to go to ignited.com, where all the podcast episodes are available with show notes and so many of the little details and links from each one of these interviews. And you can look at all the future events that we have going on, all the things that make Ignited so special, even beyond this recording. Again, thank you so much for joining us. We will see you next week.